In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about a common problem with Toyota Highlanders with the rear windows where they fall off the track. So the first thing we need to do is get the door panel off to determine if the window regulator itself is damaged or if it's fallen off the track due to something else. Inside the door handle here is a little tab that we're going to use a pick tool like this, and we're going to pick this tab open, and once you get it picked open, behind it will be a Phillips screw. So like I said, we're going to remove that Phillips screw here, and once we get this Phillips screw removed, with a thin panel popping tool, you're going to put it in right here at the top of the switch, pry upwards, and then at the bottom of the handle, you're going to pry downwards, and that'll pop the handle loose. Now you can pull it out and slide it back, and that'll remove it. Now we're going to remove this little cubby here that you put your hand in when you pull the door closed. So you put it in at the edge and you push forward, and there's a little metal tab that it'll flare, and then you can push up like this. And most of the time you can just pull it out like this. Sometimes you'll have to go on the back side and do the same thing, push it from this side and then pull up to remove it. Once you get that removed, on the inside there, you're going to see a Phillips screw. Go ahead and remove that. Once we get that screw removed, we're going to go at the bottom of the door and use our thin, flat panel popping tool again, like this one here. I will link the one I'm using up in the description of the video. So we're going to stick it in the very bottom of the door, and we're going to pry outwards, and this will pop all the clips free in the door panel. You can place your hands on the left and the right side of the door panel, pull outwards and lift up and wiggle at the same time. The door panel will pop off. On the inside here will be an electrical connector for the Windows switch. We need to squeeze the tab and then pull this off. So there's a little tab, and you'll squeeze it and then it'll come off just like this. Now you can set the door panel aside. Once you get that set aside, there's a plastic weather barrier here that we need to peel back. It's held on with a sticky, like a tacky, sticky substance. So if you work really slowly, you can pull it back without tearing the plastic. It's already been in here on my vehicle here, and they made an incision on the plastic, and they used packing tape to seal it back up. So you're just going to take your time and work around it and peel it back about 50%. So what I did was, once I got it peeled back about 50%, I just tucked it up behind the handle there. So now that the weather barrier is off, I looked inside the door here and looked at the window regulator, and it has fallen off the track of the window. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to tape the window up in the full upright position, just using masking tape around the top. That'll hold the glass out of my way. Now I'm going to unplug the motor right here by squeezing the electrical connector and pulling it out like this. And then there's a couple 10mm bolts. I believe there's 4 of them in total. We're going to go ahead and remove these, and this will unbolt the regulator. So what we're going to do is take a closer look at the regulator, make sure it's not bent, and that's not the reason why it fell off the track. But most likely it fell off the track because of a problem with the glass, and I'll show you that in a minute. Once you get the motor unbolted, you'll take the motor and regulator out as one piece. You'll just kind of work it in different angles and come out. Now, if it was still attached to the glass, you would slide the top of it left or right, and that'll unhook it from the glass. Sometimes this plastic guide pin at the top will break, and that'll be the reason why it fell off. But in this case, it's in good shape. So now we're going to work on getting the glass out of the vehicle. I just took the tape off here and slid the glass down to the bottom. To get the glass out so we can inspect the mounting point for the glass, we need to remove the window track. There's a 10mm bolt right here that we're going to remove. And once you get that removed, at the bottom of the window track, there will be another 10mm bolt. And at the top, we're going to remove this molding here, and underneath it will be a screw. We're going to remove that there. So remove that screw. So after removing the screw from the top and also the screw from the bottom of the track, now we're going to pull this molding off here. To get this molding off on the far right side here, or the inside, there's a little set screw that I'm removing. So this little screw is on the far edge right here. It's a really tiny little screw. So go ahead and remove this and set this aside. Now we can lift up on the molding here. I used a pry tool at the edge here and just pulled up like this, and then work your way down the molding all the way across. When doing it, you just want to be careful not to pull too much on one side. You want to work down the molding and pull it off. You could bend the molding possibly. Now in the window frame here is a rubber molding, and we're going to take our fingers and just pull this rubber molding out and then pull it up off the glass. So you pull it outwards like this, just pulling it up, and remove it. Now we're going to pull it out all the way up to the top of the door frame. We don't need to remove it all the way. Just peel it back like this. And now you can see that window track is loose. And as you can see, I'm also twisting it kind of counterclockwise, and that'll loosen it up from the glass. Now you can work the window track out of the vehicle. Then you can just reach in and lift the glass and pull it out of the frame. So this is the reason why the window keeps falling off the track, is if you look at this metal bracket at the bottom of the window that's pinched onto it, it's shifted over to the side. You can see here where it left a mark. It shifted over about 1 inch. So when the regulator goes up and down, it slides back and forth, and if it's shifted over, now it's too far over to one side and it pops off like right here. So as it's going up, it'll pop off and come disconnected from it, and that's the reason why your glass falls off the track. So now I'm going to show you a repair that a glass guy showed me, so this doesn't happen anymore. It stays on, the molding stays onto the window in the right position without falling off. So I'm going to walk you through that steps, and then I'll walk you through the steps of putting this all back together. With the glass in a safe spot where I can work on it, I'm going to grab the molding like this and peel it back and pull it off like this. There's a rubber grommet in there. Now the trick to getting this molding to stay in place is to drill a hole on each end of it with a small drill bit. And then once you get the hole drilled all the way through both sides of it like this on the molding here, before we reassemble it, I'm going to wipe this molding down, make sure it's good and clean. Just use water. One of the things I wanted to mention is before I took the molding off, I used whiteout and marked where the molding is supposed to go when it's finished. You can see the original marks on the glass. You just line it up and just make a mark so when you go back together, you know where to put it. So this is the tip that the window guy gave me and the reason why we drilled the hole. So now we're going to take some black silicone RTV and we're going to put it in the channel of the metal bracket and put a pretty healthy bead of silicone down this channel here. It's going to keep the molding from slipping inside this channel here and hold it in place, and also grip the glass just a little bit tighter. After I got the silicone put in there, I'm going to use the original molding here and put it back inside the channel here. So just start at the top and just work your way down until it's fully seated in there. And then you want to press it in there. You don't want the silicone getting on the portion where the glass slides into the rubber molding, just on the outside of the rubber molding. And this will glue this molding into this metal channel here, preventing it from sliding back and forth. And the holes that we drilled on the ends of it allow the silicone to squeeze out and have like an additional holding power. Now we're going to press the molding back onto the window. One of the things I want to point out is you want to make sure that the opening for the track is facing the right way. You can have this 180 out. So remember the way the track slid in the little groove. Make sure that's facing towards the inside of the glass. Open and put the tip on right where the mark is for the where the final resting place is. And I have my buddy here, my coworker here, helping me stabilize and also help putting it in. It's a little bit of a chore to do this. Also, to help it slide on a little bit better, we sprayed a little bit of silicone spray inside the groove of the rubber molding here. The silicone will make it slippery for now, but it will dry out later. Line the corner of it up right where we want it to, and use the rubber mallet to get the corner started first and tap it on. And as we did that, we slowly pressed the molding towards the glass, lightly tapping the molding and driving the molding onto the glass until it's fully seated. Now that the molding is fully seated onto the glass, we're going to go ahead and reinstall it back into the window frame here. So I went ahead and stabbed the glass back through the window and into the door and slid it into the molding on the far right, and then slid it all the way down to the bottom and just let it rest in the bottom until we can get the window track and everything back in place. So next, when you feed the window track brace in, on this one, the molding was popping off the inner glass here. Make sure that's in place, and then we're going to slide this metal track down into the door. You want to make sure that the bottom foot peg is facing downwards. When you slide it in, you can put it in backwards or upside down. So slide it in with this facing down. This is one of the tricky parts of doing this particular job. So slide it with the foot peg facing down, and we're going to start the bolts here in the bottom and at the top once we get it in there. So the way I did it was I slid it in there like this, and I kind of twisted it counterclockwise. So once it's down into the frame, you twist it kind of counterclockwise, and then once you slide it up against the glass, you'll rotate it clockwise around the edge of the glass inside the door. And as you can see, I'm sticking my head through the window looking down the channel here to see what I'm doing. And then once you get it wrapped around the glass, then you can push it up against the molding here and line up the bolt holes. So we need that glass in the center of this molding here. As you can see, it's not here. So what I have to do is you got to make sure that this is in the channel here on the far right side. Then you can twist the window track slightly counterclockwise, and that'll give it enough gap where the window will slip inside, and you rotate it clockwise, and that'll line it up. On this portion of the job, it just takes patience and just working with the glass and the molding and just making nothing forced, just make little adjustments, push the glass over, twist the molding, and eventually it'll work its way and it'll drop itself in there, inside the groove, and then line everything up. Once the glass is in between the track and the track is laid into the position, go ahead and start the bolts at the very top, in the middle, and at the very bottom of the door frame and tighten those all up. Now that we got the frame of it bolted up, we're going to work on getting the rubber molding back into the door and around the glass. That'll hold everything nice and snug together, and so everything slides up and down nice and smooth. So the way we do this is we center the glass in the frame, and then we start the molding on the tip of the glass here, and we work and push it down the channel until it fully seats, and then you push the molding into the grooves of the track at the same time. So this takes a little bit of time, a little finesse. Spraying the molding down with some soap and water also helps it slide in there easier, and then when the water dries out, it's fine. It doesn't leave any residues or anything. So what you do is you get it started again, you just work that water, soap and water in there, and that makes it slippery enough where it'll slide down in there. Sometimes these moldings will slide right in with no problem. Sometimes they'll fight you. Just depends on how tight the frame is. So as you can see here, I'm working it down the door frame. One of the things I also found that help work it in is if you slide the window up a little bit in the track, and then as you slide the window down, you push the rubber molding, and it helps draw the molding down into the frame. Once you get the molding fully seated into the groove of the window track here, then I slide the window up and down a handful of times, just making sure everything slides up and down nice and freely without binding. Now we're ready to reinstall the window regulator. To do that, I put the window in the full upright position and tape it at the top. That way it stays in that position. So we're going to reinstall the regulator. This plastic guide here has to hook onto the edge of the glass there. So you got to make sure that this is lined up. So you'll feed that in the door. So I'll feed it through the door. I want to make sure that that plastic piece is facing towards the glass, not towards me. So as you can see, I fed it in from the bottom. Now I'm using my left hand to the large hole at the top, and I'm guiding the runner onto the track that's on the window glass itself. So once I get it in there where it's about centered in there in the middle of the glass track, the regulator will be pretty much just floating in there and hanging from the glass. Now I can reach down here on the bottom side and work it and rotate it so that the bolt holes all line up. So I'll get one of the bolt holes lined up, and then I'll start one bolt and leave it loose, but just keep working it and twisting it left and right until all four of the bolt holes line up. Line all of them up and start all four of them, and then I'll plug in the electrical connector and then go around and tighten all four of the bolts. Now we can feed our electrical connectors back through the weather barrier here, and then put the weather barrier back into position and press it back into this tacky stuff. It should hold it. If not, you can tape it back on like the previous person did on this video. Just take your time, line everything up, and then press it in and press it on. It's not uncommon for this stuff to rip and tear when you do it. Packing tape works really well for repairing it. So now we're ready to hang the door panel and the molding that we took off on the opposite side. First, I'm going to start with the door panel. What I'm doing now is plugging in the electrical switch here on the back side. Just plug it in. And once we get that plugged in, then we're going to hook the door panel over the edge of the door frame. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the molding wasn't seated all the way on here, so I went ahead and just popped that back into position. We can secure all that molding too. So now we're ready to put the door panel on. So we hook it over the edge here, right over the lip here, so you angle it at an angle. Once you get it lined up on both left and right side, and also around the handle, you'll swing it downwards to it's mounted flush against the door. You'll look on the side there and you'll see the tabs in there. You want to make sure that those are all lined up, and then you just press the door panel into position. You know, just kind of with the palm of your hand, press it into the door. Now we're going to set the screw in the pull handle here. Go ahead and start that screw. Now we can take the pull handle, little cup portion of it here that we used a flat blade or a flat tool to push it and pop it off. You just line it up and push it straight down. Just make sure it's facing the right way and press it down until it clicks into position. Now we can take the decorative cover here and put it back on over the handle here. So you just slide it through the handle here. And then there's a little hook on it. You slide it into the hook into the inside of the handle. And once that's hooked in there, then you just press it into place. So this little hook here has to kind of hook on the inside of the handle here. So you'll feed it in, hook it on that little handle, that hook first, and then you push the tabs on right here on the top and bottom right here. Push those on. Now you take the set screw, go ahead and screw that in and put the cover back on. Now that we got the door handle here secure, we're going to work on the outer molding on the opposite side of the door. So this molding is pretty simple to install. You just line it up on the left and the right side and you press it down until it fully locks into position. And then at the very far left, it had one set screw, so we'll go back on the inside of the door and screw that screw in. Now with that all done, we can go ahead and clean up the glass. I operated the window a couple times up and down to make sure everything was good to go. And then I left it in the full upright position. I recommend leaving it there at least 24 hours before you use it regularly. I'm Brian Essick from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this. Thank you again for watching.